Alors, Madame la Première ministre, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Nous sommes ravis de vous recevoir et ravis que vous ayez répondu à cette invitation. J'ai plein de questions pour vous. La première ministre de la RDC.
You are the first female prime minister in power for the last 16 months. I will talk about being a female prime minister, but also about peace and power. So we will talk about employment and security. So we see that in the east of the country, the situation is unstable with Bukoma and Bukavu. How do you see the rest? How do you see how you can take the territorial integrity? You have to understand that this war in the east of the country has been going on for 3 decades. Today, we are in a process that is changing. The aggressor has been clearly identified. They are armed groups that exist, and they are with Rwanda. And today, the most important is peace. This is our main focus, because we need to remember that this conflict created more than 6 million people died in this conflict. We have displaced people. In the last events in January and February in Goma, we had more than 10,000 dead. So it is the most important thing at the moment. After the different resolutions and the different regional mechanisms, and the resolution of the 73 of the United Nations, after Nairobi, after Rwanda, today with the Washington agreements, with thanks to President Trump and the Doha agreements, the most important is how to build peace. But as you said, this peace means that Rwanda needs to accept a ceasefire, which is not something easy to obtain, and this is the obligation of the DRC to keep fighting and defend its territory. So we need to defend our territorial integrity. The President Tshisekedi said it and repeated, we are for peace. And now it is up to our neighbors to understand that we are a country, one country, and Goma and Kabu are part of the DRC, and there is no way we can accept to give this part of the country, and we will never accept that our population keeps suffering because of war. So we have hope in these agreements, because we are convinced that only peace will enable us to have a positive evolution for the country. So these safeguards that you are mentioning today, we'll come back on that. But we're talking about minerals in general. You are in a country that is rich in terms of minerals. We'll talk about 70% of the global resources. But we have the impression that these minerals are like a curse for the country. So how can we make sure that these resources will benefit the people? It is true, we have a lot of minerals. We work for ecological transition, but today these mineral reserves are an accelerator for development. We want to say, yes, we have mineral reserves, how we will use them in a supply chain that will be transparent and fair and sustainable, and we try to avoid to put this supply chain with illegal mining, and this is why we want to talk to the international community to make sure that the supply chain is completely transparent and respected. The other point is to say we have minerals, yes, but how they will be beneficial for the future generation, because you know that the DRC, it is 120 million inhabitants, 70% of this population is less than 35 years old, so it is important for this population population to have jobs. So how to create jobs? Well, we have mines, we have mineral reserves, and we want every investors from the private sector to make sure that we are towards a local transformation. And this is why we are looking for partners with investors, with countries who want to invest in the DRC, but making sure that we go towards a transformation chain on the local level that will create jobs, create employment, and it will enable to give value to a generation, to a whole generation. So this is the perspective that we have today. So how can we do that? Because today you are like stuck between competition between the US and China with foreign investors. You've talked about corruption, the lack of transparency, but how can we do to make sure that you can benefit from foreign investment, but keep your sovereignty? So let's take that partnership with China that you've mentioned. Today, we had to revise the contract that we have with the Chinese companies to make sure that we can take all the benefits or more benefits for our population. Today, the agreement says that we need to have infrastructures that will benefit the population in terms of, for example, road infrastructures, road facilities to be able to evolve. The other thing is to say today, mining in DRC, if you look at the reserves, we have only used about 20% of the reserves. So we have space for new partnerships, whether it is with the US or other partners, and also with companies from DRC, because we want today, when we talk about different suppliers, we want to have an investment from the people from the DRC. But we're talking about mining, but it's not just mining. We are a country with arable land. More than 70% of the land is exploitable, can be used, and agriculture is very important in our country. When we talk about farming, is how can we boost local production to become an autosufficient country for tomorrow. So this is the vision that my government is having. And of course, when we say investments, we say improve the business climate, more transparency, fight against corruptions, and checking our investors. So this is our approach with reforms, with the digitalization, and we really want to focus on development. A lot of promises, because 20% is the figure that I did not know. So that's the interest of Washington. So you have made a new agreement with security guarantees against mineral reserves access. Yes, I think the Washington Agreement in the framework of the peace and any other agreement, whether it is commercial, that can be made within a partnership of development. We want peace. We want a ceasefire. We want to have the full territorial integrity for the DRC. As I said, Goma, Bukavu, and some part of the countries like Sake, it is very sad for us to see what is happening, because a lot of population are suffering from war. Women, young girls are being raped. Young people are being hired to be part of those armed groups. But beyond these problems, it's just less than 20% of the DRC. So we need to keep going. But the most important thing to us today is peace, because we cannot accept, we cannot tolerate that the Congolese population suffer this violence in the country. So this is the first objective. Now, we need development, we need investors, maybe American investors. So if we make agreements, I think it's a good thing. We talk about American investors, but we have Congolese investors, we have Canadian companies, Swiss companies who operate. So it is the most important, to us, the most important is to have a good diversification of the economy and create partnership, and we want win-win partnerships that will benefit the Congolese population. And today, our code, mining code, imposes 10% that needs to be dedicated for the future generation, and we need to find benefits for the communities where the mineral reserves are. So how do we create partnerships for the populations? You have also a lot of resources that are not related to mineral reserves. We talk about the Congo basins, we talk about 20 billion of carbon captures in this area. So how do you make sure that you make the most of mining and also protection of the environment? Today, we talk to the mining companies and we ask them to respect some standards to protect the environment. And you said as well, we have the equatorial forest, we have natural resources that has a major role in carbon captures. So we have discussions today to see how the country can benefit from carbon credits. We've made a decision recently with the President Tshisekedi is to push for a law that will protect the environment, to make sure that we have an area that is called the Green Corridor from Kinshasa. And we've got the Virunga natural reserves. And we need to make sure that this area, as I said, it is 500,000 square kilometers. We need to make sure that we've got in this area green jobs that will benefit the young people and have access to development, but respecting the environment at the same time. Because, as you said, the DRC is a solution, environmental solution in Africa. And it is like a lung for the world. So it is important to keep working on that aspect. I think I want to keep talking about policies. You've been in power for 16 months. I think it is a very good length when we talk about the other durations of your previous prime ministers. What are your hopes today when we talk about political stability in Congo? I think the most important today, especially for the politicians, but for the populations, is to make sure that we work for the development of the country. So we need economic stability. We need to make sure that people don't lie to young people. As I said, it is 70% of young people in our country, and war, conflicts is not something that will help with stability. We need to make sure that economic development and how we can make sure that this development is a strong one. If you look at the country, there is a majority and there is opposition, and we have elections in a democratic process to make sure that we can create change if you don't agree with the policies. So this change cannot be made through weapons. It is not acceptable. We have populations that are victims of violence, so we need to make sure that we keep the same approach with the government and with President Tshisekedi. We keep working on the development of our country and make sure that we can create more jobs for young people through the programs that have been implemented. Madam Prime Minister, you are the first female Prime Minister. You have named 18 women in your government. What is your strength as a woman and what were the challenges? First of all, we have a president of the Republic who is a champion. He's talking about positive masculinity. So you know that our constitution says that we need 50% of women in power. So the constitution clearly states the equality, gender equality, but it is a process, you know. At the moment, we are 32% within the government, and I think it is a strong message that is being sent today, not only to women, but to the entire population, to show that women have their place. I think today some people said, oh, this woman, what can she change? What can she bring to the country? We are a country at war. You know, the last 16 months have shown that I am as capable as a man. I have a wonderful team. I have a president who is always open to dialogue and to make sure that we can work on policies, on the economy of the country. And I think the most important thing today is like there is a change of narrative on the cultural level because, you know, women have always played a key role in our countries. The women was the center of the family, the core of the families, and with the different crises that we went through in the last 30 years, we saw that women became they played central roles. They educate the children, they play a key role in the household. So you have, through me, the demonstration that a woman in power is capable of doing things and taking actions. And I think it is important when I visit schools in rural areas and I can see those little girls looking up at me. And I think it is a huge motivation to see what's happening and to show that a woman is a human being and we have our skills and we can make sure that the country is moving forward. Thank you very much, Madam Prime Minister. Thanks a lot.
Merci.